Populous II for the Amiga lets you harness the power of Zeus. But how does it stack up to the original? It's Amigos, episode 291.
Amiga, the first personal computer that gives you a creative edge.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're going to be talking about Populous II. Now, Aaron, I've got to ask you, when it comes to harnessing the power of Zeus, do you have a favorite, Greek or Roman god in the pantheon?
Well, I like Thor, but he doesn't count. So if I'm going to pick a Greek or Roman god, I have to think about that. Do you have a favorite? Let me ponder that for a minute. Who do you like?
Jupiter.
Why?
Jupiter. He's the bringer of jollity. I mean, me and him are kind of the same guy.
You're the bringer of something. Who's the god of manure? What's that guy's name?
I don't know that he has a name.
I would probably go. I'm a big fan of Hercules, but and not because he's a big strong guy, because he got put through the ringer. Like if you read his stories, he got hosed a bunch of times over and over. Like I had a bad life, Plus, I liked his show with Kevin Sorbo. Remember that?
No,
you don't remember the
was that the same person as that was like the Xena producers, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, I do remember that.
Sam Raimi and Tappert, they did those. Hey, they did a good job with that little show. It ran for a long time. It became quite a hit, and of course, Xena spun off of it. I like Xena more because Xena's way more flawed than Hercules. But ultimately, both shows had the same problem, which is we've got a huge indestructible killer as our main character, and so it's the beating of the week for the losers.
It's it's the Superman syndrome. Does Hercules have a kryptonite?
Not really. Occasionally he's dumb, but Kevin Sorbo's Hercules was also smart, so he didn't get tricked like you would think. Xena was just sort of evil. That made her more interesting, and the best episodes of those shows are the ones where they get humanized. Basically, they lose. They get crushed. Like there's some great episodes of Xena where her companion gets killed and or loses her baby.
Is she like a doctor? Does she have multiple companions through the run of the show?
No, Gabrielle was her companion, and there was some great turmoil between the two of them. There was sort of a romantic thing going on between the two of them. It was pretty unique for that era in television.
Sure.
I know this is a far cry from talking about the Greek and Roman gods, but that does come to mind. Hercules had a little buddy too. They just he used to save the guy a lot.
What was his name? Bucky?
No, Bucky's Captain America's little buddy. Who, it's funny in the movies, Bucky wasn't a little in the comics. Bucky's like a kid, like a mascot almost, who goes to war. I never understood that, but in the movies, he's a big old oaf of a guy, so a little bit different. But yeah, I would go with Herc. Herc is cool.
I'm getting ready to embark upon a journey into Greek mythology. I just got a new copy of the Odyssey. That epic tale, and I'm going to be starting on that this weekend. So I'll report back my Greek and Roman adventures next time we play a god game.
I feel like I've already read that because I did see Old Brother Wherefore Art Thou, which I believe is that
it is. It's based on the Odyssey, right?
There you go.
Great film.
Great soundtrack too.
That's right. All right, Aaron, it's time to jump into this week's Amiga news. Let's do it, man.
Amiga news.
All right, Aaron, we would be remiss if we did not start this new segment off with 10-minute Amiga Retrocast new video, his third, I believe, in a series of Amiga 2000 adventures. Now, Aaron, yes. I know that you watched this thing. Tell me about what goes on in Doug's workshop this week.
I even wrote to Doug after this one because he kept trying things over and over on the 2000 that just kept not working. I mean, it was and we've all been there. He's trying. Bridgeboard didn't work. Like all kinds of crazy stuff didn't work. All kinds of crazy hacks. He had to he couldn't run at a high resolution high enough to even show his own logo properly. That's what you're looking at right there.
Gosh.
But I mean, Doug never says quit and he never says die. And he's sugary optimistic. I mean, just smiling, having a good old time. You know, this
He's
is what
he's in a different location. It looks like he's put his workbench right in front
I
of the front
noticed
door.
that. I noticed
Yeah.
that. It's like it's a whole different because he probably need a bigger table for that
That's
2000.
true.
That's a
Yeah.
monster. He just checked into the chat. By the way, we're talking about you, Doug. But Doug is super sunny. This is, I've tried to do these like Aaron works on some crap videos. I just can't do it, man, because when stuff goes south, I can't just smile and be like, it's all good. I'm like,
That's when it turns
"Ah."
into an ARG Presents type stream.
That's when it turns a little blue. That's
Yeah.
all I'm saying here. But Doug holds it together. Plus, one thing about Doug's stuff is like it's informative. Like you know what's going on. I didn't know very much about the Amiga 2000 before I started watching this series. Now I've learned a lot, so I've really enjoyed it. Top Doug, I don't think he's ever put out any duds. It's all top quality stuff. He's a top tier dude, and so I ringingly endorse this series. Good stuff.
Cool. All right, Aaron. And the second biggest news story of the week is that Amiga Forever and C64 Forever have just released a new version. This is version 9, Aaron. I know that you, one of our most popular videos of all time on the channel is our Amiga Forever for Dummies video that you were the mastermind behind.
Oh, yeah.
And this new version looks really cool. I picked up on this from Mike, actually, from Cluanto, sent us an evaluation copy, so I knew that this was coming, but there's a pretty good write-up on it over at Indie Retro News. Some of the new things that they've included are there's a new dark mode option. What's the deal with dark mode, Aaron? Why is this a thing?
I don't know. I like that stuff. So I don't have a problem with it. Good for them.
Yeah, so they got dark mode.
Yeah.
I guess there's some new hardware acceleration things going on. And they've just sort of updated. They've given a new coat of paint to everything. Not everybody buys into the Amiga Forever format. You do got to pay to get it. But if you're looking for a very easy way to jump into some of your favorite Amiga games and, sort of legally own the Kickstart ROMs and all those things if you don't actually own an Amiga, this is probably the way to do it. And plus you get all the C64 stuff thrown in too.
Let me tell you, I'm going to speak on this a bit. And say what Cluanto, some people loves them, some people hates them. That's fine. I understand. But no one should badmouth the Amiga Forever package. This thing's solid gold money, and it saved my bacon about 1 million times. I still use it to this day for the save states and whatnot. I was reading the email that he sent us, and amongst the things on there, he was talking about this new kind of like an arcade mode where you can pick from screens. I like that. I'm anxious. I haven't got to install this yet because it just came out the other day, but I'm going to fire this thing up. But I like the Amiga for a package. The C64 package is good too. I like them both. And one thing you got to say about this, they could have just released the first couple versions of this thing and been like, meh, good enough, and you can play Amiga. But they continually upgrade this, and unlike a lot of utilities that get upgraded, when they upgrade, it actually gets better and not worse, like much better. They're always thinking outside the box for new things they can add in. So I give this thing the big thumbs up. The Cluanto guys have always been super nice to us. They've always given us the inside scoop on stuff, which we appreciate. And you actually interviewed the Cluanto guy. What was that fellow's name?
His name's Mike.
Yeah.
He's a super nice guy. I've interviewed him on multiple occasions. Both years at Amiga Ireland, we had a chance to talk. And he is somebody that is very passionate about the Amiga. He's not just in this for the money. I don't know exactly how much money comes out of a project like this versus the amount of work that goes into it. But he's a big Amiga supporter on both the classic and the new Amiga stuff. So yeah, stand-up guy.
Yeah, and I will say this in closing on this: all roads that are to a unified Amiga platform, they're going to lead through Cluanto. So. Whether you agree with their opinion or not, we're going to all become a peaceful group, get together, and figure it all out. There you go. Good. I like it though. I'm looking forward to trying this out. That arcade mode idea, that's a great idea.
I agree. All right, Aaron. Speaking of ways to launch your Amiga games in addition to Amiga Forever, there's also a new game launcher that has just been released. This also was a write-up from Indie Retro News. This is a new way to launch WHD load games. So, there are things like iGame, which I believe that Dave gave a presentation on it at the last International Computer Club that was really cool. There's Xbench, there's Tiny Launcher. This is a new one. This is called WHD Load Menu. Snappy name. This comes to us from the Suri developer, and it looks a lot like going through the menu of a PlayStation, like a PlayStation 3 or something like that, or the PSP. That's what it reminded me of. You've got horizontal folders, and then you push up and down to navigate through menus, sub menus within the horizontal folder. So pretty cool. WHD is such a popular thing. I'm not surprised that people are trying to come up with lots of different ways to get to your favorite games. So if you want to check this out, you can click on the link over in the show notes to Indie Retro News, and the source code and the instructions in the downloader are all off of that story. Did you get a chance to look at this one, Aaron?
I haven't looked at it until just now, but I will say you could tell that there's a very popular emulator front end for Linux and Windows machines, and this looks very similar to it. So clearly, someone, and by the way, it's super popular. So someone wised up. It's like, let's not reinvent the wheel. They've got something good going on. Let's see if we can use that. And then this is one thing I like about this. Just looking at it for the first time, Bode, in RetroArch. Thank you, Flack. It's very clean. That's a nice, clean look. I like it. It looks good. I'll definitely be giving this a look, Bode.
Awesome. All right, and we've got a new prototype version of an Amiga game that's been found. Now, Pac-Land is sort of infamous in the arcade world because this was the first time that Pac-Man left the friendly confines of his neon-colored maze and ventured out into the real world in a 2D side-scrolling platformer game. Just a very bizarre game. This is not one of your favorite Pac-Man games, is it, Aaron?
Well, I'm not going to say I hate it or anything. I used to watch the cartoon,
Mm-hmm.
and so, I mean, this reminds me of the cartoon every time I see it. I'm going to go on the assumption that this was made after the cartoon came out, or this was the basis of the cartoon.
Because Pac-Land came out in the late 80s, and I believe that the original Pac-Man cartoon was part of the Saturday Supercade.
Well, they had Christmas specials and a bunch. They had that. Pac-Man was a pretty big deal. Obviously, no kidding, right?
Yeah. So anyway, Pac-Land made an appearance on the Amiga, but they found a prototype version that actually looks a lot better than the game that was released. There's different sprites, different gameplay. You can even pilot vehicles in this game, according to the write-up on Indie Retro News. So pretty neat to find this prototype of a completely different game. I'd love to know the story behind how this version didn't get released and an inferior version did get released. Always interesting to hear the stories behind these games and how they came out or how they were lost.
And you can download this right now. So
that's right.
Pretty cool.
That's right. You can download it and try it out.
Yeah, it looks pretty good, Bo.
Yeah.
I'd say not bad.
And we've also got, Aaron, this is our final news story. This, every once in a while, I'll just do a search on YouTube. I'll just search for Amiga, and I'll see what's been uploaded, within the past week, and just see what's out there. And this is a guy that I never heard of before. His name is Weiju Wu, and this is a tutorial on how to add mod files to your Amiga games in C. One of our biggest complaints about Amiga games as a genre is that too often the developers didn't see fit to add background music into the games. And what this is this guy actually takes you through creating a mod with ProTracker, which a lot of people know about. But then if you go into the later part of the video, he actually breaks down inside the source code where you can just add a couple lines of code to have that mod play in the background of the game. Pretty cool. I wonder if something like this might be able to be used for a game like Lotus 2, which how great would it be if somebody hacked together a version of Lotus 2 that actually had the music playing in the background?
Probably pretty difficult, but that would be great. You know, listen, the next time I program in C-Boat, you can be darn sure I'll be putting, after I make my own mods, because I'm great at that. I'll be loading this sucker right in here.
Clearly, this video is not targeted to the likes of me and you. But I imagine that there are quite a few more coding-minded people out there that watch this show, and maybe they can get something out of it.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
this is
Good find, Boat.
yeah.
Nice one, eh?
All right. And finally, Aaron, it's time for our new Amiga hardware pick of the week from Retro Rewind. This is something that's brand new, was just added this past week. Our buddy Frank has added a selection of capacitor kits to his site. Capacitor kits, you need to have them. If you've got an old Amiga and it's just sitting around, chances are those caps are going to blow sooner or later, and you could end up with a lot of damage to your board. So why not take the time right now, head on over to retrorewind.ca and buy one of these capacitor kits for your Amiga. They've got all the models, Aaron, from the 500 all the way up to the 4000D. The 4000D. I'm sorry, all the way up from the 1000. I missed the 1000. They've got literally every model except for the CD32 right here. You can get one of these things, and this way you don't have to worry. Oh my gosh, did I fat finger the wrong part when I was paging through one of these huge sites ordering capacitors, all that stuff. You know what you've got when you get one of these kits, and they're very reasonably priced. The 500, the 600, the 1000, the 1200 are $11. The big box Amiga sets are $18. So, Retro Rewind from the great land of Canada, the Great White North, he sends these things out. He's a reputable dealer par excellence, and we thank him for sponsoring this episode of Amigos.
I will say this, Boat, because I've done a few cap kits in my day, mostly arcade monitors, which that's a fresh level of hell that I wouldn't subject anybody to. But this line right here strikes me as it's in bold because it should. Our kits include the highest quality capacitors. You can't say that with any certainty when you buy a random kit on eBay. And I got to tell you, as I was holding capacitors in my hand for that monitor that I'd ordered off eBay, I'm like, I wonder where these came from. I had that exact thought. That's never a good thing.
If you use the promo code AmigosRock, you can save 10% off any order. So here we go. That is Retro Rewind, and now it's time to move on, Aaron, to this week's game, Populous II.
Bam. And there we go. Now, Boat, we played Populous 1 way back, if you'll recall. I don't remember the exact episode, but it was a while back. Have you ever had the experience of playing Populous 2?
No, never.
Believe it or not, I'm going to blow myself up here for once. Look at that. I actually own this game, Boat.
Yeah, I it's funny. I actually own it too. I'm over there looking at the at the box.
Yeah, we got everything we need to play this bad boy. Now the funny thing is, I don't know how you got your copy, but I do know how I got mine. I started a while back. I was like, I'm going to order a new Amiga game every month. That was my plan. And so I'm like, what's the cheapest thing I can get to start my collection up? Okay, this is before we got that big score from California. And the cheapest thing I could find at the time was Populous 2. I think I paid like $7 or $8 plus shipping. So it's like $14-15 when I bought it. Now, this has been a couple years ago. Now, I never had any intentions on playing it. But I bought it just to have. So
just to have on the shelf, even though you're not a stuff on the shelf type guy.
Well, I am now. I will say, I'm going to get into this later on the show, but I'm turning the corner on having the stuff after this episode, which I'll get into. Let's talk about Populous II, Trial of the Olympian Gods. Released on the Amiga the day after my birthday, August 31st, 1991, Boat. This was a one-disc game developed by Bullfrog, very famous developer, Boat. Peter Molyneux's crew.
Right.
They did a lot of good stuff on the Amiga. They did Druid 2, Flood. They did Populous 1, obviously, Power Monger, Theme Park, Syndicate, plus expansions for a lot of those games. Bullfrog had it all. Then they went on to do stuff like Magic Carpet, which is a really cool game. Black and White, I think that was Molyneux. I'm not sure if it was Bullfrog that did that one, but I think it was. And this was published by Electronic Arts. This game came out on 4 million systems. I was surprised by this, Boat. Did you see all the systems this was out on?
A lot.
Like the NEC PC-98, the Super Famicom. Did you know about that one?
Yes, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit.
Oh, you are? Great. Yeah. DOS and Windows. The Genesis got it. The Sharp X68000 got it, which, there you go. So a lot of different systems got it. Who'd have thought that the Genesis would have gotten this? I would never have guessed that. I was surprised to read that one, too. And of course, I forgot the Atari ST, the FM Towns Marty, of course, and the Mac. I don't want to leave those guys out of the loop. This was worked on by a whole gaggle of people, but I'll give you the short list on it. Coded by Peter Molyneux himself, along with Glenn Corpse, a graphics done by Gary Carr and Paul McLaughlin. These guys generally worked on a lot of the Bullfrog stuff, as you would expect. Musicians were Charles Calais and Les Edgar, and then a slew of people tested it and whatnot. It's ECS, OCS. It says here language in the manual, but my manual just has English, but my little summary card is multilingual. So I guess that's what that's talking about. I guess the rest of you have to figure it out. This did allow you to install it on a hard drive.
You bought an NTSC version of the game, right?
Right, but I mean, it has a multilingual. It has a multilingual book in it, but not both books, just one.
Oh,
I
see
what
you
strange.
mean.
Yeah.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
This has one to two player support with a butt. The butt being to play two players on this requires you to have a connection to another Amiga, whether it's via a modem or a serial cable. Like a null modem. Would be sort of set up, which still just to include that kind of neat. But so I thought that was kind of cool. I'm glad I had the manual for a couple of reasons, and one of which was this game has at the beginning of it here. I'm going to put it up here. There's a comic on this. I don't know if did you see the comic book in this?
Mm-hmm.
There's a little comic book.
There's the backstory there.
Yeah, there is. The comic's only real short. It's not much to it, but the backstory I thought was it's pretty fitting. So of course it all boils down to the King of the Gods boat, and you know who that is? That's the big man, Zeus.
Z-Man.
So, as one of the many sons of Zeus, the All-Father, you demand your rightful place amongst the gods of Mount Olympus. But Zeus isn't about to give you your inheritance just for asking. You must prove your worthiness by defeating the 32 divine opponents who ruled the 1,000 worlds of Populous II. There you go.
Let me ask you, do you have to do this by racing gnomes?
No. Listen, who races gnomes? I never could figure that out. But, so basically, if you read the comic, and this is actually kind of funny, because the whole plot of the comic is Zeus can't stop going down and being with mortal women, which, of course, that's Zeus for you, you know. And so
I thought it was funny. I mean, the comic talks about this a lot. Yeah. And the comic is like, and it doesn't just show Zeus descending and ravishing these mortal women as a human. No.
It's to switch forms into animals or different looking people. Zeus is a real weirdo, as you can see if you're watching at home. So, but you're the product of one of Zeus's many escapades and down in the mortal world. And your guy's like, hey, I'm the son of Zeus. I want some of that sweet, godlike action. Who can blame him? I don't blame him. And so they're like, okay, pal, you can get in on it, but you've got to go through the trials of the Olympic gods. And the trials are like 1,000 lands that you got to go through and take on these gods in a godlike way and beat them. That's the gimmick for the game. So it's a pretty simple concept, really, but if you think about it, beat the gods at being a god. Of course, we didn't play Populous 1 a while back. Just from bringing this thing up and looking at, because this is sort of definitely a different plot. What did you think of this setup for this thing?
Oh, it gives you a reason to think, I guess, a little bit. But once you start the game, none of that means anything whatsoever.
I mean, you're right. I mean, I will say
it's not like you're talking to Zeus in between scenes and you're being like, "I'm coming at you."
Well, there is a thing, and I know you're a big manual guys, but I mean, if this would have went right past me if I hadn't had the book, and that is when you create your god, okay? Because you create your god and you think to yourself, "Oh, you're creating a god." It's pretty lackluster. Let's put it that way. It's not like you're divvying up a ton of stuff to make your god, but one of the things you do is you actually make what your god looks like, okay? Right. And this part, and you know what I'm talking about here, don't you, Bo?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So depending on what your guy looks like, it will determine how the computer goes after you. If you're mean looking, it takes a certain aggressive approach. If you're kind of happy looking or thoughtful, it'll take a more of a cerebral approach to the combat.
And much like all character creators of all the times, some of the faces that you create are some of the most ugly visages of the human race that have ever been created.
Yeah, you got that right. I wouldn't say they spent a lot of time on the graphics for the faces or that. I mean, they knew where they were going to put their money.
Yeah,
but still, I've never seen a game where your looks determine the way the computer's going to.
Yeah, that is interesting. You're right.
And I wonder how many people pirated this and had no idea that had anything to do with anything. Right. Something else you do is you divvy up your God points. Let's go with that. Into the various elements that will give you, that you could build up to get better powers in the various elements.
Now, I played around with this, and I could not see any discernible effort or any discernible change in no matter where I put my points. Maybe it's one of the things that you have to play the game for a long time and really accumulate those experience points, because you do continue to allocate those as the game goes on. But at the beginning, like I put everything into people, I put everything into fire or whatever, and I didn't see much difference just from the get-go.
And I will say the categories you pick are earth, water, wind, fire, plants, and people. All right, 6 little categories, and they're just little pictures. And that's how the trees grow, right? And so once you've added these points up, bam, it's go time, and you throw down. Now you've got a couple of choices here when you decide how to play. Really, you've got 2 choices. You can make a custom game, or you can go take the trial of the gods, basically. And I went with the trial. The custom game is basically like, I mean, I will say there's a ton of options. Did you try any of the custom game stuff, Bo?
No, not really. I was just doing the campaign.
But one thing you could do in it is, of course, you could set that up for 2 players. You can also, change different things to make different things happen. The way, for example, water affects you, or which powers are banned or not banned, or swamps, the depth, and this and that. It's a ton of options in there. I will say it gives you a lot of angles to change the way the game works. So there you go with that. So if you've played Populous, this should be it's a pretty easy learning curve, wouldn't you say, Boat?
Absolutely.
I mean, it plays a lot like a Populous, except with more jack. There's more powers. There's everything's a little bit bigger. I would also say that the interface was a little bit easier than Populous, from what I recall. You're far more familiar with Populous than I am. What did you like the interface? That's the change?
Oh yeah, I mean they basically updated it for the time that it was released. So in the original Populous, you had to scroll across the screen using buttons on the screen. Right. And in this game, you just use the arrow keys and you scroll around like you would with a modern game.
Yeah. I will say, the first game turned me off big time just by getting around.
Yeah.
And in this one, you get around pretty easily. I mean, basically, for me, you've got now this is one game that uses the numeric keypad of your keyboard. I will say that, because I used enter. This is what it says in the book, and that's what I used. I used enter to flip back and forth between 2 screens, and one screen is like the blown up play field, and then one screen is that traditional, like everything's sort of shrunk down. Plus, you can see the Coliseum and the world map, and you really have to use both, don't you, Bo, because you have to access your powers. There are shortcuts.
You can get by without using the big screen, but your field of view is so limited that you really want to use it. But it doesn't go the other way around. You cannot only get by using the big screen, and that's one of the differences we'll talk about a little bit later between some of the other versions of the game and this one.
Yeah. So basically, your goal is to expand your people, the good people, to and expand out their civilization up to where you can just basically run over and beat the tar out of the bad people. In the adventures that I played. And I have to say, I was telling Boat before the show, when we covered Populous way back, I was real nervous about that episode because I really didn't have a good grasp of the game. I didn't feel like I didn't understand the concepts. I didn't understand the controls. And I will say, having the manual helped me a lot. I had a much better grasp on Populous II. Maybe it was because they'd updated stuff too to make it a little bit easier for more of a dumb guy to get involved. But really, when you boil this game down, you start off by flattening your land out to make to have your people build their houses, the bigger castles, and then once you've got a goodly amount of those set up, you can go back and click on the middle of those castles to basically send out people to go out in the world to basically expand. And
right,
so
and so this is another thing that's different than the first Populous game. So there's a special word they use in this game whenever you send forth people from a structure, and that word is sprong.
Yes,
SPR. Is it SPRONG? Am I getting that right?
Yeah, it was. That was the name I've never. Oh, Sprog. SPROG.
SPROG. Okay. Yeah. So you sprog people from these buildings, and it causes them to go forth and do whatever you tell them to do in a roundabout way, depending on what thing you click on the side of the screen. In the original Populous, you didn't have that option. You had to actually raise or lower the land around your structure to cause the structure to upgrade or downgrade itself and make the people come from it. It was really, really not great. That's probably the biggest benefit to Populous 2, because you're sprogging till the cows come home. I mean, that's all you're doing.
Yeah.
And so and being able to do that without having to raise or lower the terrain is a big help.
Yeah. A lot of this game, at least the early part of the game, involves land manipulation, quite a bit of it, because early on your mana is low, and so I was able to, I guess, terraform my property a lot easier than I used to be able to. I don't know if it was moving at a better clip. I can't explain that. And I didn't go back and play Populous when I probably should have. But to me, I was able to get around. Maybe it's just because I could get around better.
Yeah, I think it is. I went back and I played Populous 1 some.
Yeah.
My original plan was not to, just in case it came up on a second look or whatever.
Yeah.
But I needed to see it. And what you said is right on the head. The actually raising and lowering the land, that mechanic is the same. But
right.
The difference is being able to move with the arrow keys and be able to center your cursor. All that stuff works so much better that it's like the whole thing just plays better.
You can whip around real good, especially if you're like early in the game. Now, again, I don't use my strategy as gospel because I'm a doofus. But my strategy was early in the game, flatten as much land as possible. This may be everyone's strategy. I don't know. And then get everyone up to their castles. The castles in this, I think there are 7 squares. As I read, that they're bigger than the original. And then once you start getting a bunch of castles, you got a bunch of people roaming around. That's when you can start planning your attack. And that's where these little buttons on the side come in. Let's talk about the buttons in this boat. There's a lot of.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Before we talk about the buttons, we were schooled on Sprog in the chat by Mitsuyama. Mitsuyama says that Sprog is slang in the UK for a child or a baby.
Oh, thank you. Very good.
Yeah.
That's good. I was wondering where that came from. I just thought it was a made-up word, to be honest with you.
Me too.
So, it's funny. I found the wiki has an interview with Molyneux. Of course, Molyneux is a classic. He's renowned for his baloney when he talks, which I like. But he was talking in this. He had a bunch of crazy stuff he talked about. And one of the things he talked about was the fact that they were having trouble with the buttons because there were so many buttons in this. There's so many powers. There's tons more than the original. And so one of the things he mentioned was that they had to change the way the game played because they had too many icons. So when you've got, when you've got your earth and wind and fire, all the 6 elements thing, they added that in because that was the only way they could get the buttons to be big enough to see. He said they had buttons that were 4 pixels by 8 pixels wide. Those were the buttons in here.
That's way too small.
And he wasn't happy with it either. He didn't want to do that, but he didn't see there was a choice because of the amount of stuff that needed to be pressed. So they had to change the way the UI worked. They basically had to change the way the game worked too. Something else I thought it was funny he mentioned was that he had told people that there would be a pretty easy way, he figured, to export your Populous maps to SimCity, which that never happened. I don't know where that's classic Molyneux, though.
It just reminds me of all the things around Fable. In Fable, you'll be able to live like a real person your whole life.
Yeah.
We've been down that road before.
He's got a bunch. he's got a bunch of wacky lines. He also mentioned that this thing was completely rewritten from scratch because he doesn't believe in doing sequels where you just update the code. He said that's a expansion disc. We've already done those, so it's a complete rewrite. So
I'm surprised to hear that because there are many things in this game, like the whole train raising and lowering thing.
Yeah.
That's based. I mean, it literally functions the same way. I guess rewriting the code doesn't mean you can't use parts of things from before.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about all the powers, according to what this says, in Populous you could have 8 powers, in this you could have 29 powers. That's a ton of.
It's a huge amount.
Yeah, and so that's why they had to drop it. So anyway, getting back to these buttons, you've got buttons that do sort of mundane stuff like turn the digging on and off, the earth building. You've got buttons that tell your people what to do. Like should you go towards your idol? Should you come together to empower yourself? There's that sort of. Should you attack? You've got buttons for that. Then you've got buttons that come out to give you access to all your godlike powers. And it's all that stuff is based. Well, not all of it, but the powers are based on how much mana you've got. That old. They broke that thing back out, the old mana gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
And so as you go through the game, your mana will build up as your population builds up. And so until you get enough mana to do stuff, you can't do it, Bode, unfortunately. But as you go through the game and you're building up your population, your mana will creep up. You'll also notice that on the smaller map that has the world map and the Colosseum on it, the Colosseum indicates how your population is doing and how your opponent's population is doing. And it does that by putting people in the stands, basically.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. That's one of my favorite features of this game is seeing the Coliseum fill up with opposite sides of amounts of people wearing red and blue. It's like a sporting arena, where you see the different fans on the different sides. And it does let you see at a glance how well you're doing versus the computer opponent. Yeah,
because that's when one of the buttons you could pick is Armageddon. And when you pick that, it's very much like Archon 2. When you hit the button, that means every side, everything they've got is just coming together in a big, huge free-for-all death battle.
Right.
So if you look at the Coliseum and you've got those suckers outnumbered, you can go ahead and drop the hammer if you desire. Now, I read some stuff on score in this game because this game does have a score. It's a score game. And you wouldn't think that a game like this would be score-based. I wouldn't even. It's not like it's an arcade game or something. But I read that the scoring is directly related to the amount of experience points, God points you get to put in your powers. And so you really sort of want to draw the games out as long as you can. So that was the tips I read. And so I never did Army. I would wait till the last guy was dead. I just send my guys in, wipe everybody out. And then did that help me? I'm not sure. What was your strategy, Boat, when you were dealing with this thing?
That was not my strategy at all.
Okay, well, I'm good. I want to hear what you did.
My strategy was grow your population as fast as possible. Okay, every once in a while, pop over to the bad guy and start burying his people and drown them or whatever. Then you cast some fire upon them.
Yeah.
And then you hop back to your spot. And you continue to terraform and grow your settlements. And as soon as you have just a little bit of an edge over the computer player, like when you see that you just have a few more people, you wait until you get enough mana and then trigger Armageddon. Then you win almost every time.
That's totally different than what I did. Because what I would do was I wouldn't even fool with the computer for a long time. I would just let them do their thing. And I would do nothing but flatten my land. I'm a flattener, man. And I would flatten it. I wanted everyone to have castles. Then I was having Sprague and left and right. And then once you get a good Sprague going, Boat, you got to get that going. Once you get a ton of people in the Colosseum, then I would go over and fool around with the bad guys just by screwing up their cities and stuff.
Right.
But I know that it takes that even the terraforming takes mana. So you could actually, by not doing that, you could actually save some mana in the long run.
Well, yeah, you don't want to terraform with abandon, but you can't get the ultimate structures, which are going to give you your best people, and they're going to give you your most amount of people,
right?
Without having those castles. I believe that in this game you need a 7x7 square surrounding a land plot for the castle, which is the highest level of structure,
right?
And so you're going to be spending a ton of time in this game, raising and lowering land.
What I was saying is I don't go over and actually screw with the enemy's land is what I'm talking about. Generally I didn't do that. Now it is funny to do it. Don't get me wrong. When they get something built and you go over and wreck it, that's always a good time. And that
it
does
is
keep
weird.
The down.
I thought that was one of the weirder things about this game, because can you imagine like a real-time strategy game like StarCraft or something where you can go over and you can just mess with the other player's stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems unfair and it seems like sort of counterproductive to what you're trying to do, but that's the way that he wrote the game. It's funny, you know.
I was reading some people talking about playing the 2-player version of this, and one of the things you can do, of course, you can screw with people in that. Okay.
Right.
And one thing, like when someone drops one of those like fire towers on you, you can just turn the land underneath it to water and just go. So I mean,
that's great. Yeah.
It works both
ways. So there is
a
strategy where you can deal with it, and of course, like you said, all the time that you're wasting and screwing with the other guy is time that you're not building up your own forces. So you can't just do that and expect to win.
Now, something else, and this is important. We got to touch on is the creation of your heroes. And use of the papal magnets. Both.
The papal magnet, yes.
The papal magnet is it's sort of like an idol or a religious icon that what you can do. What I used to do with it, and I don't know how you I'm like I said, we haven't talked about our strategy, so it's kind of interesting for me to hear what you did. Once I got my jack going, I dropped that papal magnet right in the middle of the bad guy's joint. I'd stick it right there, and then you get once you've got your guys grouped together where you got a lot of studs, you send those suckers over, man, to drop the hammer. Now you can attack a couple different ways, but one of the things you could do is tell them to go get that papal magnet. And they'll make a beeline to it,
right?
And you can sort of pinpoint where you're sending your guys, as opposed to just a general attack where they just sort of staggered over, you know.
Yeah, what I did, like I said, we just went about things a different way. I put my papal magnet right in the middle of my settlement.
Oh, yeah?
That way the guys didn't have far to go to get powered up by that papal magnet. You get all of them in there, and then you wait for Armageddon, and then you turn them loose, and then they just overrun the competition.
I do like the idea that you could have vastly different approaches to how you play the game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Of course, part of that's also going to be the kind of gods you make, and also, we should mention that part of this, when you're in competition in this game, you're actually competing against another god. And so you can actually look at their stats and the way they do stuff. You know, some gods are more brute forcey, some of them are more intelligent in their attacks. Some of them they have different strategies. So I think that's kind of a neat element to the game. You can at any time you can kind of click on their little readout to see what they would do, you know. So yeah. I always thought that was kind of neat. The power, we mentioned that there were tons more powers in this, and there are tons and tons of powers. I'm not going to go into all of them. But, I mean, you could do stuff like lay down plagues. You could do earthquakes, which I believe that was in the first one. You could plant fungus. You could put swamps and stuff down. You could actually put whirlpools you place them off the land, and when they get near the land, they just break the land into water. They're really those are real nasty.
All of the effects are very, very well done.
Yeah.
I think like the swamps are neat looking. Yeah. The whirlpools are cool.
Yeah, you've got rain of fire, volcano, all kinds of just crazy stuff. I didn't get to play with hardly any of these either. Baptismal fonts is another one because your people will drown in them. You know.
No. When the baptismal fonts, they turn into the other religion.
Yeah, they go in them and then they come out as as an enemy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right. So you've got tons of stuff. I never got to use those. I just read about them. You've got tons of different options when it comes to how you're going to play it, what you're going to do. Now, the god powers that I got to try, I only got to try maybe 2 or 3. I got lucky because someone had wrote a bunch of passwords in the back of the book, so I could kind of skip ahead and try some different stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, I guess I could have looked them up, but they were written there, so I just tried some.
Well, I did that. And what I saw on Lemon was like, it might be this, or it might be this, or it might be that. And I was like, yeah, I'm not even going to bother because clearly somebody's just writing random things on Lemon.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. But you know, last week, it's funny. You mentioned that it's like, oh, Aaron, we got another strategy game. And I'm telling you, I was sweating this one. I mean, big time. But I've got to say, I really enjoyed this game. I was surprised how much I got into it. Now, there are some elements of it that are currently beyond my scope in terms of like strategies and stuff, but I mean the basics of the game are pretty basic. I mean, it's not like you're reinventing a wheel here. What were your overall thoughts on this one, Boatster?
Yeah, I agree. I enjoyed this much more than I thought I would. It had been a really long time, of course, since we played Populous, so I'd forgotten almost everything I knew about it. And there's just something cathartic about the way that you raise and lower the land and you make it all flat and nice. Like I had fun just doing that. Like if the game would have been called Earth Flattener, I would have been happy. I enjoyed
I
that.
would not have been happy about that. Earth
Yeah,
Flattener.
I just there's something it speaks to, just like, I don't know, that same sort of feeling that I have when I play Katamari Damacy, where it's like you got something messy and you clean it up. You got a bunch of hilly terrain, you make it all flat and nice and smooth. I love it. The game is not overly complicated. I mean, the game, when you boil it all down, is you're trying to grow your population to make it bigger than the other guys, and then you trigger Armageddon, or you just beat them, with brute force without triggering Armageddon, and you just destroy all the other guys' stuff. And then you move on to the next stage. The powers, the powers are all cool. I didn't get to use a lot of the powers, but from looking at animations on YouTube long plays and stuff, they look really great. This was a game that you can easily sit down and start playing and look up, and an hour has passed and it does not feel like an hour. I mean, the game is very immersive. It's a lot like Civilization, in fact, that it's just it's a big time waster, but in a good way. I could definitely see myself putting hours and hours and hours into this as a kid.
One of the things I think was interesting is when you advance in this, and I thought this was neat. There's basically 1,000 maps in this. Okay, when you finish a level, you won't just go to map 2. It will look at how you did, and the better you do, the more it will skip you ahead, effectively. So you won't be going, like, if you sucked real bad, you may only skip ahead 1 or 2 maps, but if you're really, really good, you could skip ahead, 10 maps or something like that. I'm not sure the exact number, but that's an interesting way to do it. I do like the fact I said that this did support the hard drive installation back in the day, which was always a plus to have. So I like the music. I like the little alarms, the little dings and stuff. They make sense. Eventually, you understand what they mean. You know what's going on. I like the graphics. I wish you've got all those tiles to work on, and so I kept having to go back and get my book to see what they meant over and over. Now, eventually, I memorized the most important ones, but again, we're down.
Well, there's really not that many. There's only 4.
Well, no, there's way more. I'm looking at all the different tiles on this map we're looking at. There's like,
well, yeah, I mean,
tiles
you've got your power tiles on the left side,
yeah,
and those are pretty self-explanatory. I don't know. I disagree. I feel like, because on the right side you've got your papal magnet, you've got the gather, you've got the fight, and you've got the settle on the right side. On the left side, yeah, I don't know exactly what all those things do, but they're all different powers that wreak havoc upon the enemy, plus the raise and lower thing.
What I would like to have had, now no one did this, okay, I know, but it would have been nice to have the gimmick where you could put your mouse over it and it would just say what it is. In a little bubble that would come up.
And in a couple of years, I'm sure that would have been added if this had come out a couple of years later.
Listen, my memory ain't the best, but it would have helped me. But I did like that. There were still some stuff I wasn't quite understanding, like the creation of your you create like basically a leader, and then you can create heroes, and you also, when your people intermingle together, when you gather them, they will basically generate better warriors. And of course,
right,
if you
and
read the books,
that's the idea, is that when you send them all to the papal magnate, they get supercharged somehow, and you select your warriors from those people. And then the thing that I couldn't understand is, like, there's a leader, right?
Yeah.
And the leader is the first person that touches the papal magnet. But whenever you give the go to the papal magnet, whenever you create a hero, you have to choose a new leader, and that will be the person that goes to the papal magnet. So that part of things, I think that you and I were confused by the same sorts of things in this game after hearing you explain
and that's one of those things where eventually, I mean, I knew enough to be dangerous, and I will say, I got to play this over a period of a couple nights this week, and you're right, you would go in for like a long session. And I was telling Bud earlier, I was pleased because I actually found success. Like, I didn't get instantly murdered. I could beat the first, like, 2 or 3 levels and, like, going away. I felt good about it, It's nice to get a couple wins under your belt, before it gets super difficult. So I like that.
Right.
Now, when I
Right,
skip
and what you were describing earlier about the way that they handle the difficulty curve, I think is perfect.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't keep experienced players from just playing easy boards over and over again. It will skip them ahead. But for people like you and me, I could use as many easy boards as they can throw at me.
Yeah, I think overall, as far as these sorts of games go, this may be my favorite now, just on the sheer basis that I can sort of kind of play it. So I'll give it 2 thumbs up for that. Now,
did you enjoy this one more than Colonization?
Yes, I did. But this was I thought this was easier than Colonization.
Oh,
that
yeah,
might be part
absolutely.
Of it. And certainly more streamlined. Now, this is not going to feed the same. This isn't going to scratch the same itch that Colonization will, because it really is a whole different type of game with a lot of micromanagement and stuff going on. But I don't like that. I don't like that sort of game. It's too much for me.
Yeah.
This game, I will say, this may be my kind of game, just on the basis that it's not super mega. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't get super hard or deep, because I didn't get far enough to know, but I mean, it's playable, and I think I could get better.
I agree with you. I'm 100% with you. I love this type of game. It's like strategy light, where you've got some strategy, but it's also like the overall mechanics of the game are easy to understand. You might not understand all the finer points at first, but you can get a handle on it pretty early on, and I like that.
And the funny thing about it is, like I said, when we played Populous, I was so confused, and I never wanted to play that game. But like I said, I think part of it's just the fact that I had the book here in-house. I could sit down and really ponder it and go through the book while I was playing. That helped a lot. So I'm starting to think maybe I need to start buying more games, Bo. I hate to say it, but I'm seriously. I mean, and I don't mean just getting a text file. Having the book and having it arranged with the graphics and stuff. I hate to be that guy, but that makes more of a difference than anything, I think, is having the
absolutely. Well, we talked about this before the show, I think, but what I always do the day after we film is whatever the next week's games are. It's Saturday morning. I get up at 5:30. And I pour myself a cup of coffee, and I open up Hall of Light on my iPad, where they have the full scan of the manual.
Yeah.
On Lemon, they've got the text files, and like you said, those are not as good because you don't get the layout, you don't get the graphics, and it's not as good. Now, nothing's as good like you have, like having the book in your hand. That's the number one best. So
it helped. It helped me a lot. So we mentioned this got released on a bunch of different machines. I just grabbed the DOS version for comparison. I believe I read that the DOS version was a VGA 16 color, and it looks.
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit about this.
Oh, please, yeah.
So the DOS version runs in 256-bit color, or it can run in 16-color high-res mode, which I believe is what you're seeing right here. The 16-color high-res mode looks a lot better than the Amiga version. However, the DOS version did not appear until 1993. It appeared 2 full years after the Amiga version. So it's no wonder that they had time to go back and make things look better. The DOS version, I played this on ExoDOS. Aaron, have you heard of ExoDOS before?
I hear it's the bomb.
It's the bomb.com. I'd never used it before, and I kind of poo-pooed it because I knew you were into it. But man, it's awesome. It rules. I downloaded that thing, and it was great. So anyway, I played this on.
Jack Flack turned me on to that, by the way.
I played this on ExoDOS, and it looks better. It runs faster, but the biggest difference is that you can use when you go to full screen mode, it pops up it pops up the buttons in the side of the screen like you have in SimCity. So imagine like all of the icons, they pop out in, and the Amiga version does not do that. And so that alone makes the DOS version superior. But again, it came out 2 years after the Amiga version, so they had some time to make things better.
They had time to understand. Plus, a lot happens in 2 years in terms of the menu design and stuff. Right. There was probably a lot of other stuff that came out that gave them the idea to do it. But
now, I also took a look at the Super Nintendo version of this game.
Oh, you did? Okay.
So the Super Nintendo version of Populous II only got a European release. Only in Europe. Maybe it got a Japanese release. It did not get a U.S. release.
It's listed as a Super Famicom game, so you can see that.
So probably came out in Japan, probably came out in Europe, but not in the United States for some reason. It is almost unplayable. It runs super duper slow. The scrolling with the control pad is super, super slow. it is not fun. It's not a fun game to play. Now, they have made advancements in the way that the story is. There's actually, oh, I don't know if you'd call it a story mode or not, but there's an overview that shows you a map, I think, of Greece or somewhere, whatever mystical place this is. And as you complete boards, you make progress across this track. Okay. And the track is leading up to Zeus, I assume. And so they try to do a little bit to flesh the story out more in the game. But moving the cursor with the mouse and also moving the world, scrolling across the world, super, super slow. I would not recommend you play the Super Nintendo version of Populous.
You could see where that would be an interesting title to try to port over, and it probably a very difficult thing to get on. I mean,
graphics.
Super Nintendo couldn't pull it off, but I'm saying I can see where it could be difficult for it.
Yeah, graphics wise, it looks the same as the Amiga version, but just without that keyboard control and the mouse control, it's no good.
Very good, very good. I looked up some reviews on this Boatster, as you know I like to do. This is a pretty popular game. Lemon gives this an 8.43, very high praise from the Lemon folks. The magazines were very fond of it. Just to name a few, Amiga Action gave it a 90. Amiga Computing gave it a 95. Amiga Format gave it a 95. Amiga Joker, 91, Boat. They were all up in it. Amiga Mania, brother, gave it an 85%. Amiga Power, a 90. And Amiga Power, the earlier one where it came out first, that 90 was its revisit to it. The original review, 93. And CU Amiga, 97. Overall average, magazine average, was 92%.
Nice.
So very good. What did our Discord people think about this one, Boatster?
Oh, well, we got quite a few reviews this week. Lord Soup leads the charge. He says, once a masterpiece, but the gameplay hasn't worn time well. I played this for hours back in the day, but now it's only fun for a while. 7 out of 10 for legacy more than playability. Graham W. Vebke writes, I do get why this game is termed as a classic, but it just doesn't gel with me. It does keep the same formula as the first game and refines it, but I do find the AI requires a sledgehammer to shell a peanut. That style of gameplay may have worked years ago, but ultimately not that enjoyable now. The art looks better than the first game in the series, yet I still prefer the first game given a choice between the two. However, this series is not really my style of strategy game, but if you enjoy playing as a god and like terraforming, this is the series for you. 6 out of 10. Jason Warnes writes, better. 7.5 out of 10. Super Famiking writes, I never liked the first Populous, as apart from Megalomania, I've never enjoyed God games, so I've never tried the sequel until this week. Unfortunately, again, like the original, this goes right over my head. The game looks nice, it has decent mouse controls and important keyboard shortcuts. Although the game starts you off easily, it quickly ramps up the difficulty and I got stuck fairly early on when my villagers were evicted. There's a fair amount of options and different skills and spells, but never having direct control over your inhabitants feels disconnected. I know this is regarded as a classic, but I've never seen the appeal of this game genre in general. 5 out of 10.
Wow.
Chris Folds writes, this is a difficult game to play in 2021. However, I judge all games based on what I could have played at the time, 1991 in this case. I did play the heck out of this in the day. It was unique, innovative, different, and very engaging, and stood head and shoulders above the competition in its day, so it deserves a solid 8.5 out of 10. However, in 2021, I wouldn't recommend anybody play this game as the genre just evolved so much. Now it's just a lesson in frustration. Zorglub writes, I loved it back in the day and was amazed by the graphics back then. I have a boxed copy of it in now because I remember it so fondly. Was looking forward to play it and still find it enjoyable. Would probably play SimCity 2000 or Dune 2 instead today. I expected more from the sound. I gave this game 7 out of 10. We didn't mention that, Aaron. This game cries out for a soundtrack, and there is nothing.
I was surprised. I was surprised by that because the opening is nice, and it comes up and
nice.
The little jingles and it plays when you win and stuff are nice.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I thought it'd be too irritating or something to play over and over. I don't know.
Yeah. Paul, a.k.a. Hermsky, writes, a Firm, 9 out of 10. This was a game that had me hooked back in the day, having spent many hours playing this. A game that was very addictive that grabbed my attention from the off. I remember always struggling leveling the land, though. My eyes could not cope. I could not risk playing this game this time around. Really could not risk more lost hours. And and finally, Pixels at Dawn writes, I've never played any of the Populous games, bar a little of the third on the PC, but as a strategy fan, I honestly expected to love this. Mechanically, it works well enough, but after playing it for a few hours, I just found myself bored. There doesn't seem to be much of a challenge or much to do. Flatten the land, gather people, zap the enemies, repeat. I mean, it looks pretty enough, but the sound is lacking. I was prepared to give it the benefit of the doubt, but consulting the records, in 1991 you could have been playing Megalomania, Battle Isle, SimCity, or a whole host of other better strategy games. It's a shame. I wanted it to be better. Maybe I missed something? 5 out of 10. So the Discord community, much less high on this game than we are, Aaron. This is easily an A game for me.
For me, I loved it, but I can, you know why they the last person mentioned Battle Isle, and so
if you're into Battle Isle, I can see why this might not be your bag.
This is light fare to your harder core people. So,
right.
But perfect for me. Hey, before we close this one up, I wanted to mention something I thought was amusing in the back of the manual. I don't know if you saw this. It's a copy protection warning. Did you see this?
No.
It says, Zeus says copying software is ungodlike. None of my kids would participate in such a travesty of honesty. These immortal words were found etched in the stones that line the foothills of Mount Olympus in Greece. They were a divine confirmation of what we mortals have known all along, that copying software illegally is only practiced by the lowest form of pond scum. So there you go. Words from the great man himself, Boat. The great man himself. So yeah, I like that, Boat. That was a good time. I was surprised how much I enjoyed it, my friend.
All right, Aaron. Well, let's move on to we've got a lot of stuff happening in the Everything Amiga community this month, the Amigos retro gaming community at large. Let's start things off from our website, everythingamiga.com. We have a new article there, Aaron.
We sure do. Our good buddy, our bosom chum, Graham W. Vebke, put a little thing up here called Outrun, Homebrew Better Than Official Releases. We all know that the Amiga version of Outrun is an El Duddo. And
yes.
Graham goes into great detail here. He talks about the arcade version, and then he sort of talks about what he likes about it, and then he talks about the conversions. And there were some decent conversions of this. We just didn't get on the Amiga. The Amiga also has that bizarre opening screen. Just a lot of weird stuff. He mentions that his favorite conversion is on the TurboGrafx. I gotta say, I have played this, and it's real good. Have you played this before, Boat?
Yeah. The TurboGrafx version is great. That's probably my favorite too of the 8-bit platforms, but the Sega Master System version also very good. Of course, it being a Sega arcade game, that probably has something to do with it.
He also, I love this part, because, I know you hate the original Xbox. Oh, you hate it. You hate the controllers, hate everything. Yep. Wrong! Zeus doesn't like that either, neither does me, because it's actually a darn fine console. It also had Outrun 2006 Coast to Coast, which is a real fun Outrun-ish game. That it's like sort of like the ultimate evolution of the Outrun series.
Yeah,
a great game.
I did play this on the Xbox, and it is very good.
I believe there's also a PS2. Yeah, PlayStation.
There is.
2
There's a PS2 release. It's very expensive. I went to buy it, and it was like $75.
Really?
So
talk to me later. You've also got, remember this? I remember hearing about this a long time ago. Cannonball, the enhanced Outrun engine Amiga port.
This is like the classic example of building an engine that 99.99% of Amiga owners cannot take advantage of.
Yeah.
Look at the system specs that you need for this thing.
You need a Vampire 2 with a bunch of...
with a gold 2-core or better. I don't even know what that means.
We've got, at bare minimum, we've got like brass, or we don't have anything near gold.
We got the lead core. What's that?
Anyway, a great article from Graham. I was glad to see something pop up on Everything Amiga. So if you get a chance, pop over, log in to everythingamiga.com and check this out, and maybe leave a comment or two about maybe what your favorite versions of Outrun are, or what you would like to see in an ultimate Outrun game. I think this is an excellent question to answer, Boat.
Yeah, man. Now let's head on over to the Amigos Retro Gaming YouTube channel. A lot of hot action this week, Aaron.
Well, it was a lot of something this week, I can tell you that. Let's begin here with, I'm trying to see where we left off here, Boat.
ARG presents.
Oh God, I was afraid you were going to say that. So yeah, I guess some people may have heard about this already. me and the Brent covered the Timex Sinclair 1000. And it was a contentious episode, Bo. There was a lot of headbutting in this one.
Yes.
Over this. Now, we both agree that the Timex Sinclair 1000, a decent little machine.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, a lot of people, it's funny, we got a lot of comments on our video about people having these things and thinking they were cheap crap. And that was the rep these had in the States. I can tell you that right now. I remember seeing these at like a Kmart in a huge basket. I mean, they were giving these things away towards the end. And they had a rep for just being junk, but they were, I don't think.
The membrane keyboard didn't do them any favors, that's for sure.
This is not the UK, and Americans didn't get the low cost. I don't think they understood the low cost PC thing.
Yeah,
plus,
well, we're all rich, that's why.
Well, and there's another thing called since the C64 was such a huge deal over here, and the VIC-20 and all these other machines. Now the VIC-20, they kept lowering the cost on it until they
that's the real reason. I mean, they made the VIC so affordable that it cut any machine that looked anything like this out of the market.
So it was real fun to research. So we looked at one game, and then we looked at whatever Brent picked. Brent picked this thing called Gulp, which is sort of
all-time classic,
a Dodgem / Pac-Man ripoff, with the unique addition that it doesn't have any sort of advancement. Once you clear the first level, you just sit there and die. That's it. That's it. That's all there is. That was his choice. I picked a much more awesome Fortress of Zorlok, where you get in a spaceship with full and up and back, left and right motion, and try to infiltrate Zorlok's evil shield to kill the man himself. A brilliant game with great graphics and all around fun times. Yet every chance I got, the chat and Brent beat me down on this thing to the point that I almost blew a gasket right there on the show, Bode. So if you want to watch a man lose his mind, this is the week for you, because I just about lost it on this one. But now you watched this show. I think you talked to me about this. Did you have a final thought on how that went down?
I do agree with you. I agree that your game looked better. Now, I didn't play it. So that said, your game looked better. It looked to be, like you said, more of a game than Brent's game.
His game wasn't a game. I'm standing by that. By the way, I'm not going to go over it, but I also released an uncut version of the feed from that day, because you can see me blow a bigger casket after the show. So if you want to watch that, that's also up there. It's called ARG 157 Rage Edition. Speaking of me, Boat, because I can't get enough of myself, I also, last Friday, I did a couple hours of ZX Spectrum on the Amiga, Boat.
Oh, yeah.
It was 2 big hours of nothing but sweet, sweet ZX action. I learned a little bit. We laughed. We loved. It was a good time. I learned that my Amiga can't play most of the next titles, but it can play pretty much everything before that, including ZX81 stuff. And I had a good time playing the old ZX.
Listen, you've got full access to the ZX Spectrum library now, so that's saying something.
I can't tell you. Listen, I'm not being facetious here, cute. I can't tell you how happy I am about that.
Yeah.
And you know that, because emulating
absolutely.
the Spectrum sucks.
Yeah, it's no good.
And the FPGA Amiga version of the ZX Spectrum was solid gold money. It ran everything that was a Spectrum game and a ZX81 game, and it ran it great with full joystick support on everything that supported it. It was great. So I am doubling up on ZX action. I love it. And I just got some of my friends on Discord sent me a bunch of packages to get my ROMs up to snuff. So now I'm armed. I'm locked, cocked, and ready to rock mode.
Awesome.
But anyway, if you want to see me play some ZX games on the Amiga, pop one over. I can tell you no one else is doing it. So if you want to see the Amiga, how it works on this stuff, come see me. Boat, here we go. Speaking of bad and disappointing games, it's more ZX action on our Sinclair as we tackled your choice, Boat. Tell them about it.
So this was Yogi Bear. Speaking of box games, I've still got Yogi Bear. I keep it here as a warning to just not pick stuff off the shelf for our Sinclair. It's not the worst game we've ever covered before.
No.
But it is not an enjoyable romp through Jellystone Park. I can tell you that right now.
It could have been. It was close. It was close.
The game is pretty. It looks good. The colors are fine. The game does look like Hat Chad said. It looked like it was sponsored by Mountain Dew because everything was so yellow. But the problem is the controls were bad. The concept was stupid, and it just wasn't fun. But it's always a good time to talk about old Yogi and Boo Boo and Ranger Smith and all those guys, and talk about what might have been, Aaron. So if you're at all interested in the ZX Spectrum and you want to hear our take on Yogi Bear, check that out.
Listen, no one, I can guarantee you, no two people have ever given more time for analysis of the Yogi Bear game than we did. We went into vivid, cold detail. I mean, I went back and rewatched this. Of course, I had to because this also required many, many edits because of your internet.
We had issues with the internet.
But we really, I have to say, we did a full synopsis of this game and tore it apart from the beginning to end. So I think if you're in the Yogi Bear or the ZX, give it a shot. I was happy to be back in the saddle of the old R. Sinclair boat. That was good time.
Absolutely.
Oh, here we go, boat. Speaking of internet issues, the first time you didn't get it, but the second time it took. Let's talk about Boat Tales.
So yeah, I ever since you guys covered DuckTales on ARG, I've been playing this game more, and I decided, hey, why not try and complete the game, and stream it. So I started off playing, and Twitch decided to work its magic. At the very beginning, we lost the first 6 minutes of the stream. Was muted for reasons unknown to me.
Is it the song? And then, maybe the song in there.
The thing is, though, I was talking during that whole time. I can kind of understand during the moon level. I purposefully didn't talk for like a minute. I was like, let's just all listen to the awesome moon theme, shall we? And I can understand why. I mean, I really can't understand why Twitch mutes anything. But anyway, they decided to mute it. So I put up the video. I cut out the muted parts. I put up the video. It's still a fun time. This is just a great game. I mean, it's well designed. The characters are great. The backgrounds are well drawn. It is right at the pinnacle of platform releases on the original Nintendo. If you want to check it out and watch a full playthrough, you can find that. Boat Tales, woohoo!
How does this stack up against your beloved Addams Family, Boat, if I may ask?
The Addams Family is a better game because there's just more to it. It's a longer game. There's more secret areas. You've got there's a greater variety in things that you need to do. The music, I think the music in the Addams Family is better, but it's a 16-bit game. It should be better than an 8-bit game.
There you go. Now, the Valhalla walkthrough, Boat.
Yeah.
Tell us about this.
So this is Hermsky. Hermsky is kind of the master of these ZX Spectrum adventure games. This is his usual shtick. He takes us through the manual, talks about the game. Now, Valhalla is interesting because I don't know that I've seen an adventure game quite like this before.
Cool box.
Most of the time in an adventure game, they come in two flavors. You've got the all-text adventure game, and then you've got the half of the screen is a graphic, sometimes animated, sometimes not, and the bottom half of the screen is the text. In this game, you've got a half and half, but you do have some control. The characters will move on the screen as you enter commands. So if you want to scrub forward, Aaron, I can show you what I'm talking about.
Sure.
So
forward.
Yeah, as you can see, people are moving around on the screen here, and so basically you can type a command and then you will watch something animate on the screen. You'll watch characters move around and do things. Can you think of another adventure game that does that?
I like that, but that is neat. Not to that level where I mean, how clever that is. I mean, I've seen games. There are graphic text adventures games where you type something and like something will happen on the screen, just like a little bloop, and then But I mean, that's not like this. I'd say that I've never seen.
Yeah. So anyway, check it out, Paul. I think he goes through the whole game. He spends about 2.5 hours playing it. Now, one thing that he does that I really enjoyed is at the beginning of the video, he opens up the case. He takes out all of his old maps that he had when he was a kid.
Yeah.
And he talks about how essential this was. When you got a computer game, it wasn't like, I wonder if I'm going to have to make a map. You knew you were going to make a map, and that was part of the fun, getting out the graph paper and plotting it out and all that stuff. And as you can see, this is a very, the manual of this is very good as well.
Yeah.
Lots of cool drawings and stuff. So anyway,
Lots of stats
all
in
of
there.
Herbsky
Good
stuff
Lord.
is great.
Yeah.
Definitely check this one out. It'll bring back some nostalgic specky memories for all of you UK gamers of a
Man.
certain age.
I'll be checking this out late tonight. This is on my list. This looks great. I like Hermsky stuff. It's always gold.
Yeah.
And you can just put it on and just chill out big time.
That's right.
Good job, Hermsky. Good stuff. Now, here we go, Boat. Our good pal Frodo.
That's right.
He's been doing this series and I love these. This one, the first year of the Acorn BBC Micro, the Beeb.
Yeah.
Boatster. Now I caught some of this and I went back and watched some of this. And let me tell you something. The Beeb had some okay stuff. It's not going to blow anybody away. I don't think anyone would disagree with me when I say that the BBC Micro is not known as like the game or its computer.
I was going to say,
elite,
what would you compare these graphics to? The Beeb has a very definite look to it. Would you compare it to
Vic
something
20,
like the Coco?
Maybe. I mean, to me, it's sort of Vicky looking.
Yeah, the Vic. I think that's a great comparison.
It's not really, in all honesty, that would be very colorful for the Coco. What we're looking at right here.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that sort of color palette, where you get a lot of nice colors like that, I mean, I watched some of these games. They're good looking. This is like, it sort of reminded me if the old MS DOS machine and a VIC had a child. It would be you would have something like this. These games, they're sort of PC-ish, but sort of VIC-ish. So but there was some decent stuff for the first year, and he's been doing this with a lot of stuff, and I really think this is a good idea to do this, and it's a lot of fun, and he gives you your money's worth. I mean, some of these things he goes into every single game that you can find from the first year, and he has to research this stuff. Good stuff from Frodo. I wholly endorse these videos. He's got some good stuff coming up too. So this is the first of many great videos. You'll recall he went through almost the entire ColecoVision library. So he's done, but I just watched him do one on like all the Froggers. He's done all the Manic Miners. So he comes up with some really neat themes, Bo.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, Aaron, moving on to our Discord community stuff. We have some new high score challenges that have just rolled over here. We've got IK Plus, Aaron. International Karate Plus is the high score challenge on Amigos right now. It looks like Sundown. It has the top score at the moment. You can jump in, record your high score on IK Plus. This is a really fun game. Have we done this on Amigos, Aaron?
I think we did, and I know I've played this game a bunch of times, and I guess I'm that guy. I never liked it that much. I don't like it. It was okay. I mean, I love Karate Champ. I love that game. And so, but people love it, for various reasons.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's not crap. I will say that. It's a decent game.
And over on the on the Specky High Score channel, Turbo Esprit is the high score game. This is a weird game to do a high score challenge on, although there is a scoring mechanic. This is the game that was sort of like a precursor to GTA. You remember this one, Aaron, where you're roaming around?
Yeah, it's got a word view, too, as I recall.
Yeah. So anyway, record your high scores, jump in, join the Discord community. All supporters of the show, whether you are on Twitch, support us through Twitch or through Patreon, or if you are part of the community that supports Sprite Castle or Pixel Guide In, you are more than welcome to jump in and join in on any of these challenges.
Right. Before I forget, because you know me, I should just a quick reminder that in just a few weeks, it will be time once again for another gathering of the International Computer Club, Boat.
Oh, yes.
It'll be March 27th. I believe the time was 5:30, and it's gonna be a happening, Boat. We've already got some presenters lined up, as we always do, and I have a feeling we'll get a few more here as the weeks drag on. But boy, we'd love to have you come in if you'd like to set in to the International Computer Club, or if you'd like to just watch us on Twitch. We'd be more than happy to have you. So again, that will be March 27th. And if you plan on signing up for something, Boat in our Discord channel has the sign-up sheet pinned. You can hop in there, sign up. Plenty of room. And I'm talking anyone that's just everyone from a person to someone who sells stuff to someone who's making their own hardware. Anybody's welcome to come in and give a demonstration. We'd love to see new games displayed or anything. So if you know anyone that is a business person that would like to get in and demonstrate new games or something like that, we make time for anybody. Everyone's invited to participate in International Computer Club. Again, March 27th, Boat.
And speaking of speaking of our sort of live community events, Aaron, do you want to talk a little bit about the TeamSpeak Irregulars?
Oh, geez. The TeamSpeak Irregular is a continual thorn on my side, Bode. But some of you know that on Saturday nights, myself and the Irregulars and a lot of people from Discord get together on our ARG Presents Twitch channel and play some modern stuff to help organize this act. We have started channels on the Discord. They really haven't gotten cooking yet. I'm waiting for all the dipsticks to log in. But once we do, we're going to start scheduling events in there, putting up times for the different games, and most importantly, we're going to be using Discord for our audio instead of TeamSpeak. So it'll be a lot easier to join up. So if you're sitting around the house, I know a lot of you guys it's late because we don't usually start till about 7:30 Eastern time on Saturday. But if you're sitting around the house or you're an insomniac or you just want to watch a bunch of dipsticks screw around, feel free to join us. And everyone's invited to hop in and talk to us as well. Even if you don't want to play, we'll talk to anybody, both. So, yeah, right. Feel free. But, yeah, again, that's Twitch. The channel is ARG Presents, all one word, and it's the TeamSpeak Irregulars.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, Aaron, now we're going to move forward and talk about some of the fine folks that make our show possible, starting with our Twitch supporters, our Twitch subscribers. You can subscribe to Twitch for free if you have an Amazon Prime subscription. You get one free Twitch sub a month, so you can put that towards the show. Or you can just subscribe to us normally, especially if you enjoy watching the show live. We do broadcast the show live every Friday at around 5 o'clock Eastern Time, West Virginia time. We want to thank Retro Jerry, Peeplo, Frodo NL, Eeyore 4077, ChronosNet, Uber Scuba Diver, Crabs MTG, Negsol, Mitsuyama, The Slow Norse, Memories of a Spectrum Gamer, Bigfoot's Armpits, Great Algae, Macintosh Librarian, John Marshall 3, Orom, Lamatza, Captain Chaos DK, Still Adolescing, Pints and Amiga, Jigglebox, Christian Russell, MC Chessers, Gary Heather, Buck Owens, RetroRewind.ca, Amigos Retro Gaming, that's us, Jost80, and Blue Train. Thank you guys so much for supporting us on Twitch. Now, last week, Aaron, we had one of the more epic Patreon songs of all time. We blasted off into the hyperspace. It was Starman by David Bowie. I have a feeling that old Dave is looking down on us right now with a tear in his eye and just smiling and being like, well done, lads.
I'd say
well
many
done.
tears, frankly.
We had a couple correct responses. Not too many.
Really?
David Z got it, Jigglebox got it, and Mitsuyama. Congratulations, guys.
Because I love that song, and you really hurt me. You hurt my soul, frankly.
All right. Well, speaking of hurting your soul, Aaron, it's time for another Patreon song challenge. So, if you know this week's song, you can send me an email at john@amigospodcast.com, and I will read your name live on the air. Now, if you're in the chat right now, please do not answer during the chat. We want it to be a game. So if you know the answer, email me. Don't write it in the chat. All right, Aaron, are you ready?
Yes.
Let's hit it.
David Z, George Rosansky, The Amiga Show, Daniel Crabtree, Super Family King, Crazy Loomis, William Vinter, Scar, Heavy Systems Inc., Bundy, Frag Lord, Mark Byland, Olaf Ho, Herbsky Jonah, AK Simulant, Alien Breeder, Dave Velociraptor, Calbert Boy, Lane Denson, Luke Hudson, John Cook, Bomb the Bass, Frodo, NL Soul, and Sizer, Tech Mage, Jurgen, Mr. Coley, Daniel Williams, Bernard Lucas, Jerry Dennington, Zogla. Reflection, Simon Ledge, Captain Crispy, Kilobytes, Caffeine, Gary Heather, Free Lunch, Kate Fox, David Pickford, Cameron Armstrong, Andy Jones, Labs Terminator, Tim Min, and Amiga Retrocast, Bernard Quinn, RMC, Tim Drew, Simon Rose, Joseph Harrison, Kyle Letter, Rob O'Hara, Matthew Larimore, Andy Craig, Sean Zoe, Roland Bird, Andrew the Monk Show, The Zombie League, Kellan Allen Kebab, Checo Taylor, Lord John Marshall, Matthew Perron, Ricky Drosha, Creepy Dead, Bifwiggy, CTC, The Slow Norris, Stefan Sorgon Mortensen, Edvin Helen, Blendo 75, Christopher Herhassel, Robbie Abbott, Lauren Giroux, Grant Bebke, Adam Battersby. O'Brien's Retro and Vintage, Gary Huck, Paul Harrington, Duncan Styles, Tapes from the Crib, Josh Nan, Adam Bradley, Jonas Willow, THT, Eric Nelson, Kim, Tommy Hubertstein, Daniel Bingston, Brutal Barracuda, Darren Coles, Jason's at Warns, Pixels at Dawn, and Kjolbjorn's at Barman.
I think it was summed up nicely by the fellow in chat who asked, "What level of Patreon do you have to get to not be included in the song?" I think that says it all right there. Super Tech Boy, well done, sir.
All right, Aaron. Well, next week we're going to be back and better than ever. It's Public Domania.
Oh, God. It just keeps getting. Oh
now,
no.
Just wait till you hear the name of these games, Aaron.
Okay.
We always do 2 games in Public Domain
Yeah,
Nation.
I know.
Okay, first one, Wizzy's Quest.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
How about Doctor Strange 2?
Okay. Is there
You
a
think that's going to have Robert Downey Jr. in it?
I don't. Well, he wasn't in Doctor Strange. That was Benedict.
This the other guy.
Cumberbatch.
They're all. I mean, let's be honest.
That was a good
They're
flick.
the same.
Actually, I like that.
They're almost the same
that
person.
was pretty trippy. I like that one.
Doctor Strange is my favorite Marvel movie.
Oh, there
I
you
loved
go.
it.
There you go. Well, we'll do
So-
our best.
Yeah. Public Domain Week is always an interesting week on Amigos. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, we want to thank all of you for joining us live. There's a lot of folks out there that stay up late on a Friday night to hang out with us in the chat. And we'd like to recognize those folks. We got with us our intrepid moderators, Duncan Styles and Pixels at Dawn Gaming.
Yeah.
They've been doing the banning left and right. Just people come in.
They got the easiest job at all the internet, Bo. They don't have to ban nobody.
Right. We have a really good community. Yeah. We've got and also joining us, we have 10 Mark leading the charge. We got Amiga Cami, Amiga Live, Arctic Cube, Barkbit, Berserk 83, Buck Owens, Carbot 14, Commander Root, Delamort, Edvin Helen from the Man Cave, Eeyore 4077. We got Frodo NL, Gary Hucker, Great Algae, Hermsky, Level Lord, Jason Warrens, Clumpsy, L. Curtis Boyle, all hail, Lord Soup, Matt Dufort, Matt Neo MK, Mitsuyama, Mr. Cola, Oram, Olav Hope, Paul Kitching, Peeplo, Picard 2010, R-Typer, Retro Jerry, RetroRewind.ca, Rob O'Hara, Silly Gnome 225, Super Tech Boy, Tom Toms, The Slow Norris, Tinfoil, Treyguard 82, Trey Purds, VNK, Vector Funk, Vigoro Pros, and Z9K9. Thank you guys so much for being with us.
That was a lot of people.
A lot of folks.
Thanks for turning up, y'all.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you as always for listening. We will see you next week for another episode of Amigos. Until then, adios.